For the first time in 8 years, we welcome a state budget. This is a budget that respects the hardworking people of Wisconsin, and certainly on behalf of the people of the city of Madison, I'd like to thank Governor Evers for the commitment he's made, the accountability that this represents for the people of the state, and particularly for the people of the city of Madison. This budget doesn't include everything that we would have liked, but let's be very clear about something. It's been 8 long years, and we're not going to get the state on the right track in just 1 year, one budget. In addition, it'll take some more work to get a reasonable state legislature to take on some of the other grueling tasks that lie before us. There are a number of things in this budget that do affect the city. There's some items in here that have little effect on us but help other communities, and we welcome them. But first, I just want to comment about school funding. There's nothing that a city can do that's important to the people of the community as critical as what happens in our public schools. The recognition of the additional need for school revenues, particularly as it relates to the education of special needs kids, is in this budget, and we're very happy that Governor Evers has maintained the promise, met the commitment that he made during his campaign, and we're pleased, obviously, that this will benefit the Madison Metropolitan School District. In terms of some of the obvious things, there's a modest increase in shared revenue, and the bleeding has stopped. We will see, if enacted, and in all cases, I'm not going to proceed to say if enacted, but obviously it has to be adopted. We will see an additional $95,000 in revenue. More robust in our regard is the general transportation aids. The increased general transportation aid that's forecasted is 10% in 2020, and Madison is estimated to receive about $10.2 million in 2019. We can only guess, but at this point we would think that would be a $1 million increase for 2020. General transit aids will be up 10%. Madison's estimated to receive $17.4 million in 2019, and we would expect about a $1.7 million increase in 2020. One of the most important environmental consequences of this budget is the reassignment and reallocation of Volkswagen diesel emission settlement grants. While other states met their commitment to the environment using the Volkswagen settlement grants to take on greater responsibility to tackle climate change, the effects of pollution from internal combustion engines, the previous state administration simply used those monies to swap out existing state obligations in transportation. And the adjustments that Governor Evers is making here undoes that damage, and it allows us as a municipality, along with Milwaukee, to be on track to meet the objectives of the Volkswagen settlement, namely to make investments in transportation that will be fuel efficient, that will recognize the dangers of climate change and global warming, and are not there simply to swap out already existing state funds. The governor is proposing a new $10 million transit capital assistance program to help eligible communities replace buses, and that will be of benefit to the city of Madison. There are some modifications that are rather complicated in regards to the levy limit requirements. Those will give us greater opportunity to spend on local basic needs. I do want to point out that I don't welcome significant increases in the levy for our operating budget unless we see responsibility in city government in maintaining and lowering our debt service, which is not subject to these limits. There are some changes in the tax incremental financing law that looks like the way we operate our program. We will not be affected by them. One of the most important things in this budget is undoing the Wisconsin Supreme Court's, in effect, legislating on dark stores and the refusal of the most extreme elements within the Republican-controlled legislature to stop this really tragic and unfortunate shift of tax demands from big box companies, which principally then shifts to the homeowner, the residential homeowner. For those who aren't familiar, there's a philosophy advanced by Walgreens, followed by some other big merchants that are located here in the state of Wisconsin and in Madison, including Shopko, Target, Home Depot, Menards, where they want their stores treated as though they were dark, empty, and didn't make any money, as though they were abandoned pieces of property. Well, we've got tremendous infrastructure, public support to getting people to these stores. A lot of Madisonians shop there, and we think they should continue to pay their fair share of the property taxes. Governor Evers' budget closes the dark store loophole created by the state Supreme Court, so properties that are used as comparables must have similar locations, conditions, and we recognize their highest and best use. Municipal broadband. We have recognized for years that companies serving Wisconsin have failed to provide the upload and download speeds that efficient and effective businesses and educational institutions need if we're going to be competitive in a global economy and a global market. I won't go into the details of what the governor has established here, but it's safe to say that if these portions of his recommendations are adopted, Wisconsin can come out of the dark ages and be competitive in the future. One of the dumbest things that's been done in recent years was eliminating the ability to create eminent domain for pedestrians, sidewalks, and bicyclists. This is something that's been with us for centuries in our state. It's one of the oldest and wisest use of eminent domain, and here in Wisconsin, it was eliminated in the last session of the legislature. If you look at the RFPs that modern companies like Amazon put out when they are doing competition for location, one of the elements that's in there is they want pedestrian and they want bicycle access to their headquarters. This was a regressive step backwards when the legislature repealed the right of eminent domain for these uses, and we're hopeful that this will be rectified. There's some things that are not in the budget, and they will have to obviously be taken up separately if anyone ever introduces them, but things like Regional Transit Authority and numerous preemptions over the past 8 years in terms of runoff control and our environmental concerns there, landlord-tenant relations. But this is a great start. It takes Wisconsin from 8 years of looking backwards and going into a dark, depressing hole into the direction of sunlight, openness, fairness for taxpayers, fairness for children, fairness for the people of our state and of Madison. So, And let me just mention just a couple other bullet items here. We support the returning of the classification of 17-year-olds to the juvenile court system. We support in-state tuition for undocumented graduates of our high schools. We support driver's licenses for undocumented individuals, for all immigrants, regardless of status. The changes in voting, where we remove the obstructions for public participation in the polls, is another modification that we welcome. Questions? Think I covered it all? Cool. Thank you.